You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Journey of the company from an idea to being one of world's top unicorns.
yes. And that company is Freshworks, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
So all three of us know that Freshworks recently got listed on Nasdaq. It recently launched its IPO on Nasdaq, US Stock Exchange. And Girish Mathrubootham is the founder of Freshworks, this guy. And humble beginnings in Trichy, India, Tamil Nadu, and how they basically reached this place. That is what we are going to learn today. Sure. So let's begin, team. How it made its employees crorepati. Very interesting story. So, do you know what Freshworks do? Any of you?
I don't.
What about you, Vijay? Don't Google. Don't Google.
No, I have some idea. I read about it yesterday only. So it's a SaaS company, and yeah, that's the only thing that I know.
Okay. So Freshwork basically has different softwares. Freshwork has a customer support software. Freshwork is a customer messaging software. Freshwork CRM is also a CRM software. So just like Zozoday, a company that we are working with currently, which has different verticals, which had different verticals, Freshworks also has different verticals, just like we can take an example of Personable also. So under Personable brands, there are different products. Similarly, under Freshwork brand, there are different products. So Girish Mathrubootham, as I told, he is the founder and CEO of Freshworks. He used to work with Zoho. He used to work with other companies. So he had significant experience before he started Freshworks. But there was still a lot of challenges. So the story starts in 2010 when Girish was basically reading a newspaper. He got to know that Zendesk Zendesk was a competitor of Freshworks. Zendesk again is a customer support software, at that time. And he found that prices of Zendesk were too high and Zendesk's customers were not at all happy with the service Zendesk was providing. So he found a comment where it was written, hey, there is a big opening in the market and someone who can basically create a competitive product to Zendesk. He can basically take all the Zendesk customers because most of the customers are unhappy with Zendesk. How unhappy? Look at the screenshots. So these are the screenshots after people started using Freshworks. These are the comments they gave about Freshworks. So wow, to all Zendesk users, there is a real competitor in Freshdesk. I am 15 minutes in and loving it. One click on Freshdesk, 3 clicks on Zendesk. Startups are loving Freshdesk. Who is going to rip off? The alternate I love. So as soon as Freshworks launched Freshdesk, it became instant hit. I mean, of course, it took some time, but it became hit amongst its customer as soon as they got onboarded to it. This was the unpopularity of Zendesk at that time. So Girish spoke to his friend who was working in some other company. They both resigned and Freshdesk started. This is to 2010. I'm talking about year 2010 here. But Girish had a challenge. He didn't know how to raise funds for Freshdesk. He never talked to a venture capitalist. He never talked to anyone, but he wanted to raise funds for Freshworks. So he found out a blog writing contest that was being run by AppSumo at that time. And that worked in his favor. He required he was required to write a blog on Lean Startup, and he wrote about his story. He wrote about how a comment on Hacker News motivated him to leave a comfortable, well-paying job and launch his own startup. He didn't win that contest, but that blog went viral on Hacker News, and it basically sparked interest of a lot of people. One of them was Naval Ravikant. Girish thanked those people, Naval Ravikant, and in favor, Naval basically introduced Girish to a lot of investors in India. The product was not ready yet. Yet from that blog, he earned more than 300 signups. And into 2011, when blog was not very prominent, I mean, article posting, content marketing was not very prominent. So it just went
If you
viral.
have link for that blog now, can you please share it?
Sorry?
Just to get an idea how he framed the content in that blog.
I currently don't have that blog link, but I'll share it after the in our email after the session. Then I mean they onboarded one of their first customer from Australia who just didn't speak to them. He just got onboarded using a free trial, and as soon as he experienced Freshworks, he experienced the product, they became their customer. And so Freshworks was an international company from its beginning. The reason I'm saying is they didn't get a single customer from India. All the customers, so they got all the customers from outside. I mean, they initially got 6 customers and no one was from India. So making it a international tech company from day one. Then a lot of Zendesk supporters and other people, they started criticizing Girish. You can read this conversation. So this actually aged well. Here Ben, basically he was an investor and he was a startup consultant, entrepreneur, investor. So he basically asked or told that seems to me that Freshdesk is an unethical troll trying to cash in on Zendesk's good name, but that could just be me. And Then how Girish replied to that comment. This all was happening in 2011, just as they launched. So I mean, this was a PR that actually helped Girish again. This kind of conversation helped Girish again gain some more momentum for Freshdesk. More and more people got to know about Freshdesk or Freshworks. Freshdesk is one of their software actually. Freshworks is the parent company.
This reminds me of Guy Kawasaki's teachings, if you both also remember. Do you remember the bipolar one? That is, your product should have audience at both ends, at both polarities. So you should have hate also and you should have love also. And
Exactly.
hate brings you...
exactly. That was what was happening with Girish. And then in 2011, Girish went to basically participate in a Microsoft contest and he won the first prize. Freshworks was again, so this basically showed how Freshworks was slowly growing. I mean, just starting up, Girish was trying to find different opportunities to promote his startup or to build a brand. He was trying various competitions. He was trying to, I mean, get some name out basically. So that was what was happening at that time. And then the investments or the things that he did, it basically sparked investors' interest in Freshworks. And he went on to secure $1 million funding from Accel Partners at that time. So Accel Partners is again a venture capitalist firm. And then as Girish went on, I mean, this was the sentence, these were the lines that Girish said in an interview. In all our funding rounds, many people were interested in us. So we could choose the best among them, which is why today we have Accel Partners, Sequoia Capital, and Tiger Global backing us. These are the same companies who are backing Oyo, who are backing Paytm, who are backing Ola. So you can imagine how good software Freshdesk was, or how good a company Freshdesk was. It sparked interest of these investors. And then of course they expanded based on the funding that they got. They expanded to Paris, Netherlands, France. They hosted a conference, Refresh 19 in London, the very first time, and then they started hosting it regularly. It raised basically slowly, it gained a customer base of more than 40,000. Company was doing good. It raised a revenue of 70 crore during 2017 and 2018. And from in March 2019, basically it reported a profit of 30 crores. And it is currently a second unicorn valued at $1 billion after edtech company Byju's. This is the small story of Freshworks I wanted to take you guys through. just to share how basically, so every company which is $1 billion, it struggled at some time, it faced some problems, how it overcame those problems. I wanted to keep it crisp, not go into a lot of details here. But one very interesting thing Aditi asked is we want to see the blog that Girish wrote at that time that became viral on Hacker News. I'll try to find that blog link and I'll share it with you guys.
A couple more things here.
Yeah.
What do you think, if we were to name 3 factors that contributed to the success of Freshworks, what do you think it would be?
The very first or the very important factor that contributed the success of Freshworks was the product. The product itself was solving a problem. Girish found out a problem that customers were facing, that Zendesk customers were facing. He found out that there was an opening. He could basically plug in and he could enter into the market with a product that can solve their problem. He figured out the problems that people were facing with Zendesk, and he tried to solve those problems through his software. This was the very first thing.
So just adding to what you said, Nitish, can you come back to the slide where you showed some snapshots of Zendesk versus Freshdesk? So if you see this second one, it says 1 click on Freshdesk is equal to 3 clicks on Zendesk. So the idea here is to minimize the friction in using something. So जितना कम user से आप कुछ कराना चाहोगे ना, that is better. So one factor is that, and other 2 that you have in mind?
One is the quality of the product. Second was the team that Girish basically onboarded. And Vijay, you like to share one?
So I was like reading yesterday. It like Freshworks was all over the internet, I'll say. So interesting thing was that you initially mentioned about 500 people becoming closer to crore. So it is one of the few companies which I don't remember the specific numbers attached to it, but it has another record for getting 4,000 plus employees in certain period of time. So like they were hiring at a massive speed. So like within 4 or 5 years, they got 4,000 people on board. So that was another.
And there are many such companies that are there in India currently who are growing at this pace. In this space, Gravy is one of the example. How Gravy basically grew from 1 person to more than 200 people. So yeah,
third one that came to my mind was the power of connections that you create. Because he piggybacked on Naval Ravikant's following, if you see. I mean, of course, he had other connections also, but that's very particularly mentioned in this success story. So, along your journey, personal or professional, try to
build relationships.
Build relationships with people, and you never really know when it comes back. Exactly. Keep helping or keep doing something for others, not just for yourself. ये वो वाले बीज बोने वाली बात है कि someday, somewhere you might reap good fruits out of it.
Good fruits from there, exactly. But yeah, this was the story of Freshworks. Freshworks was all over, as Vijay mentioned, it was all over the internet yesterday.
Nice.
I thought, why not talk a little about Freshworks, its IPO,